This is going to be a very simple video. I'm not going to reveal anything that you probably it's not going to be anything mind blowing here. Okay, here's the conspiracy that we've been hearing for all our lives. Jewish people make up a small percentage of the universe, but they maintain all of the crucial elements of the economy, and they have ownership of the important parts of our industrial economy, our banking systems, and all of that. How did that happen? All right. Well, first of all, you have to know the history of the Jews to understand how they got to the point where they are. It's very simple. Jewish people, they come from a certain land. They've been subjugated by outsiders the entire time. So Jewish people have scattered all around the world because their homeland was subjugated by the Assyrians first, Babylon. I mean, basically, you got to understand that Israel was a kingdom, and eventually outsiders came and they wanted the territory, right? They wanted to rule over the Jewish people because the Jewish people were very financially, they were a lucrative investment for anybody. You understand what I'm saying? So even when these various empires would take over the Jewish people, they would treat them very well because they understood that, hey, we need to treat the Jewish people good because they're a crucial part of our economy. I know you've probably heard, if you're into history, that the various Muslim empires, the Islamic empires, the caliphates, the Abu Caliphate, Fatim, all the ancient caliphates, when Islam was first created in the 7th century. They wanted the Jews in their caliphate. They wanted the Jews in their territory because the Jewish people were, even back in the ancient world, they were known as, they got a lot of money. So these rulers would actually go to the Jewish leaders, the rabbis, and say, look, what do we have to do for you guys to come to our country? Because if the Jews live in your country, you can get the tax revenue. They're going to start businesses in your country, and you can benefit because they're going to excel and go to the top of the economy. So nobody hated Jews. People loved the Jews. And these different empires were competing for the Jewish migrants to come to them. And that's one of the reasons why they always wanted to take over Israel, because they knew that if you have control over the Jewish economy, you're going to make a lot of money. Now, how did Jews get to a point where they had a lot of money? They learned how to read before everybody else. It's as simple as that. Jewish custom is you must learn how to read the Torah. In other religions like Islam, you aren't supposed to read or interpret it. Only the imam can interpret it. So you got to understand cultural differences. People over here are being taught that you can't read the Bible, you can't read the Quran. Only somebody qualified by God can read it and interpret it. If you interpret it on your own, that's blasphemy. But the Jews taught their people that, hey, if you need to learn how to read the Torah for yourself, because you never know where we're going to end up in the world. We're scattered all over the place. You need to learn how to read because you need to take your Jewish culture with you wherever you go. Now, what ends up happening is the Jews were invited to these places. They didn't move all over the world on their own. They moved to these specific places like Russia, Europe, wherever they went, because they were invited by the leaders. And when they got there, the locals would get upset. So what happens? The leadership wants the Jewish people there because they make a lot of money. They were the first bankers, and they want them there because they your economy is the number one thing. I don't give a damn about religion or any of that. Your economy is what matters. That's always been the game, the name of the game, even in the ancient world. But the leaders always had a conflict. Okay, so the locals hate the Jews because the Jews are successful. We're giving them all these tax breaks. We're giving them all of these benefits because we want them to come into our economy. So the leaders always have to say, once their locals start harassing the Jews and discriminating against the Jews, they have to support them because they don't want to look like traitors, especially if your society is based on Islam, based on Christianity. Why are you letting the Jews succeed? Didn't they kill Jesus? Why, but what you don't know is the leaders, the Muslims, the Russians, they invited them to their community. That's how they got there. The Jews didn't just decide, okay, let's go to Europe, let's go here. They were invited. And everybody was competing. Come here. If you come to our country, we'll make it easier for you to do business. We'll cut your taxes by this percentage. They were fighting for the Jews, just like different cities in America fight for an Amazon warehouse. You see how the cities do. They make videos. Please come here, Amazon. If you come here, you won't have to pay taxes for 20 years because you understand your economy will benefit from that Amazon warehouse, right? So that's the reason why Jews are hated, and that's the reason why Jews are the subjects of so many conspiracies. They learned how to read before everybody else did. Therefore, they learned how to do banking before everybody else. When everybody else was just farmers, they were learning how to do banking. They created banking. The whole concept of banking comes from Jews. They used to barter, loan you money. Then it evolved as time went on, and as the world became more civilized, it evolved into the banking system. So they became number one because they learned how to read before everybody, and that's why they tell you reading is fundamental. An illiterate man versus a literate man, who do you think is going to learn how to be a banker first? The illiterate man or the literate man? It's that simple. Peace.